Hi everyone, I am Dr. Andi. It is time for today's Facebook Live. While I give all of you the opportunity to join, I am going to give a brief introduction into who I am. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather. I caught a nice cold traveling to Epik this year, so I'm still slowly getting over that. If you were at Epik this weekend, please share your experience. It was such a fantastic weekend. It was my first time sort of back speaking, educating to all of you live, which I always love. It's always one of my favorite parts of the whole Prove It community. So feel free to share your experience if you were there this weekend. I was talking about when I was there, I was doing fasting, some hormones, thyroid, a little bit of weight loss. So if you were there, share, would love to hear from you guys. So again, while I'm giving you all the opportunity to log on, I'll give you a brief introduction into who I am. And then I will get started answering all of your questions. So I am a naturopathic physician. I've been practicing in Toronto, Canada now for about 12 years. Our focus in practice is a few different streams. I focus a lot on regenerative medicine, longevity, anti-aging. I do a lot of hormone replacement in men and women. And then we also focus a lot on chronic illness, people with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, Lyme disease, preventing and reversing Alzheimer's. So those are all really big focuses in our practice as well. The foundation of our protocols and treatment in our clinic is that low-carb, keto lifestyle and standpoint. So that's something that we really integrate with all of our practice, with all of our patients, and all the practitioners are really, again, sort of introducing that. It's not obviously the cure-all for everything, but it really is the foundation. So I would love to get started answering your questions. Thank you for sharing your experiences with Epik so far. I love hearing that you got out of your head into your heart this weekend. So again, please feel free to share how your experience was this weekend. Your favorite thing that you learned. Feel free to ask any questions if there was anything that somebody presented on, or if anyone that sort of triggered something and you want to ask, feel free to do that as well. And then I am going to start diving in because we run out of time so quickly on our questions on the live. I want to make sure I get to everything. Okay, so first question. Why do I drink ketones twice a day and not lose weight? But when I'm on a keto diet, I do lose weight. So I love the weight loss questions. And so the first thing I always like to say is that exogenous ketones are not a weight loss supplement. They do assist in fat loss as sort of a secondary benefit to what they're doing in your system with respect to blood glucose levels, insulin levels, other things that they're impacting like inflammatory markers and inflammatory pathways. And so the question I would have for somebody who lost weight on a keto diet but not when they're drinking ketones is, the ketones, exogenous ketones they're not magic. They can't erase all of our lifestyle choices that we're making. And so if you're finding that you were once keto and you're no longer keto, because I think that's what the question is, and you're not losing weight, would be to sort of look into a little bit of what you're doing in your lifestyle that might be impeding some of those goals. I also hear a lot of people who will say that they maybe have hit a plateau, and that's where you have to look into other things because, and I talked about this weekend as well, fat loss is so much more than just eat less, move more. So you have to look into other things. You have to look into hormones, you have to look into your thyroid. Are you going into menopause or andropause? Are there other things that really need to be addressed that are impeding your weight loss goals? So those are also very important. So you do have to take a look at lifestyle dietary choices, and then you do have to take a look at other factors that might be impeding your ability to lose weight. When you get close to your weight loss goal, does the keto diet change for you? So that's a great question. And so yes, the keto diet does evolve depending on where people are in their weight loss journey. So for my patients, I talked a lot about sustainable keto this weekend. So for my patients, I asked them initially to be strict keto for the first 6 to 8 weeks. I want to establish and create new habits, but then yes, absolutely the diet will change. It will evolve as you come closer to your goals, as you've created new healthy habits, and then as we establish what I like to call sustainable keto, which is what allows you to maintain keto more long term, because no one is going to be 100% keto forever. It's absolutely impossible. It's not like someone's never going to pick up a carb again for the rest of their lives. So yes, as you get closer to your goal, as you start to lose weight and lose fat, then yes, we start to modify, we move more into sustainable keto, how to incorporate the things that you love, the treats and things like that. Those are things that will change so that you don't feel like you can never enjoy the things that you love. If you want to have a slice of pizza, you can do that. If you want to have, a slice of cake at a party, you can do that. So it's more about creating that balance. So the diet definitely does change as you get closer to your goal. Can you talk about hunger hormones, how ketones help? Yes, for sure. So lots of weight loss questions today. So I talked a little bit about that as well this weekend, and the impact that the ketogenic diet and beta hydroxybutyrate has on our hunger and satiety hormones, so leptin and ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hormone that says I'm hungry. Leptin is the hormone that says I'm full. And what we're seeing is that beta hydroxybutyrate can actually decrease ghrelin. And a ketogenic diet, we find sort of a reduction in ghrelin and we increase leptin. And that's often why we don't see that same binging with a ketogenic diet that you might see with other calorically restricted diets, or other diets that people follow that restrict certain foods they have to take in. Often people feel that they're starving and then they end up binge eating after, and that's not generally the case with keto. And that's because the beta hydroxybutyrate does play a role in that leptin and ghrelin. There are also people who are leptin resistant. So leptin, again, is the hormone that says I'm full, and that's the hormone that's supposed to help decrease our appetite. And there's some people that are resistant to leptin, and they're finding that beta hydroxybutyrate actually increases sensitivity to leptin, so that you're more responsive to that hormone that's telling your brain, your body, I'm full. I don't need to eat more. Is there a way you can find out if you're in perimenopause or premenopause? So yes, for sure. So you can do blood work to absolutely help to see if there are some shifts in your hormones. But pretty much once a woman hits the age, between 40 and 45, you can assume you're in perimenopause. That period of time can last 5, 10, 15 years. So you may not go into menopause until you're 55 or older, but you can be in perimenopause for an extended period of time. And all that means is a period of time where your hormones are just fluctuating. Our progesterone goes down very quickly, and our estrogen goes down at a slower rate, where we have kind of peaks and valleys, and it slowly tapers out. And so that whole period of time, again, can take anywhere from 5 to 15 years. You can do blood work to take a look at your hormones. What we often find is that progesterone is quite low. The estrogen can often be high. And then we look at other things like LH and FSH, and that sort of helps determine if you've moved into menopause. But yes, there are ways you can determine that. But if you're over 40 as a woman, you can assume that you moved into perimenopause. It doesn't mean you're in menopause. It's just that period of time before menopause, and that's where you start. That's where you have to start sort of taking a look at hormones. Do you need some hormone replacement to support you? But there is a lot of blood work that you can do that can really help. So I'm wondering about your talk this weekend. You don't have a thyroid. How does that help my ketone journey? So I talked a fair bit about thyroid this weekend as well. If you don't have a thyroid, there should be no issue taking exogenous ketones or following a ketogenic diet. Obviously, if you don't have a thyroid, you're going to be taking, Synthroid or desiccated Cytomel, something like that. You'll be on hormone replacement. And so there should be no issue with you following a ketogenic diet. I think the key there for those who don't have a thyroid, the only way that will impact your journey if you're on a weight loss journey is making sure that your thyroid hormones are in optimal range. And that's really important. So oftentimes when you get blood work done, your provider might only look at your TSH. You have to look at everything: TSH, free T3, free T4, and it's important to make sure that free T3 is nice and high and that your TSH is low, and that's really what we want to see. Sometimes I'll find that there are people on thyroid hormone, their TSH is still too high, their T3 is not low enough. their T3 is not high enough, and so they need to adjust the amount of thyroid hormone that they're taking, because if your thyroid is not optimal, that will impact your body's ability to lose weight. It'll impact your metabolism. So you have to make sure that you have those things balanced. I love when you said, if you eat till you're sick, you need to fast till you're well. Yes, absolutely. So lots of questions about fasting today as well. I did touch on fasting this weekend. Fasting is one of my favorite tools to introduce to my patients. I find it's one of the easiest things to introduce that gives really fast results. Because with the fasting, depending on what someone has come in for, you do see change very quickly. So if you've come in for digestive issues, intermittent fasting will provide relief pretty quickly while you heal whatever the digestive issue is. Mental clarity, poor energy during the day. Fasting is very helpful in optimizing all of those levels. So you can see some change really quickly. It is turning on autophagy, the process that helps us clear out dead, damaged cells. It's that accumulation of cells that also contributes to the aging process. So intermittent fasting and also beta-hydroxybutyrate will encourage or enhance the process of autophagy. So you get greater benefit from that fasting window. And then we see really great changes in inflammatory markers, cholesterol, blood pressure, insulin and glucose levels, all just from introducing this intermittent fasting period. And so I really do love fasting, again, for those patients who are just not ready to even make a change in diet or even a change in lifestyle at this point. Adding in the fasting is really easy, and then adding in the ketones is also very easy. So some people, it's just sort of baby steps, one thing at a time. And so I find that that's a really easy thing that they can incorporate. So can I elaborate on the correlation between leaky gut and depression that I spoke on at Epik? Yes, absolutely. So I did have a big section on gut health, mental health as well. I talked a lot about inflammation in the gut. If your gut is inflamed, or if you have SIBO, inflammatory bowel disease, anything like that, then you have an inflamed gut, you likely have leaky gut. There's a really strong connection, that the brain-gut connection. We actually have a nervous system called the enteric nervous system. So there's a very big connection between gut and mental health. And so what they're finding is that changes in the gut are correlated to changes in mood and in changes in our neurotransmitters. So the actual chemical messengers that help our body to manage anxiety and depression. And so when I have somebody come in with a mental health concern, so anxiety, depression, we're always looking at the gut. We're always looking at healing the gut. We make a lot of our serotonin from the gut, and serotonin is linked to depression and anxiety as well. So we make about 90% of our serotonin in our gut. So if your gut is inflamed, if you have leaky gut, you can assume that you're not making adequate levels of serotonin. Highly likely that you're going to see some changes in mood. Again, so it's very highly correlated. So I'm always addressing gut health, bringing down inflammation, healing the cells lining the gut, and then addressing some of those neurotransmitters as well. Does drinking ketones for a long time hurt you like doing keto for a long time? So I have two answers to that question. So no, drinking ketones for a long time will not hurt you, but also following a ketogenic diet for a long time will also not hurt you. You can do both of those long term. It's a bit of a misconception. That following ketogenic long-term is detrimental for your health. You absolutely can follow that long-term, and there are many people who do. I often have people, I personally cycle in and out of keto. That's what I touched on a little bit earlier in the call, when I talked a little bit more about sustainable keto. So I'm having people cycle in and out. I personally have been keto for over 10 years, I think, at this point. A long time, actually I think longer than that. So it's been a long time, but there's no detrimental impact to being keto long-term, no detrimental impact of drinking ketones long-term. Some of the concerns on the ketogenic diet are things like the development of stones or something like that. Because the diet can act as a bit of a diuretic, we lose some of our minerals. So you just have to make sure that you're balancing appropriately, you're getting your electrolytes, Some people are prone to stones. They just need a little bit more potassium or something like that, which can help mitigate that effect as well. So you can drink ketones long-term. You can also follow a ketogenic diet long-term. I want to start my dog on ketones. How much is recommended or safe? That's a great question. I can't actually answer that one for you. Our product is definitely approved for humans, adults, 18 plus. So you'd have to talk to your vet about that. I think I have seen people share that they might have tried giving some of the product to their animals before, but animals are very different from humans. The way they respond is different. Safety profile is very different. So I don't think I would recommend that sort of right off the bat. I think that you should probably talk to your vet about that. Can you freeze ketones? So yes, you can freeze them. You can cook with them. So I know some people want to make, like they want to put it in sort of an ice cream or a freezy or a popsicle, something like that. Yes, you can do that. I've actually done that for my daughter before, so that's not a problem, but yes, you can do that. So can I share about MS? That's a great question. So I'm going to come back to the MS question. So I'm going to touch on the one with the menopause and a hysterectomy. Can ketones help with the menopause tummy and exercise? So yes. So what happens as we move into menopause, the reason that women end up developing sort of a little bit of a stomach is they become insulin resistant. They develop high levels of cortisol. The drop in estrogen and progesterone encourage the production of inflammation, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So you do develop that extra bit of fat, specifically around the middle. And we do know that beta hydroxybutyrate has been shown to impact our insulin levels and our insulin sensitivity. It's been shown to impact our cortisol levels in a positive way as well. So there are some of those underlying factors that are contributing to what we see in menopause that can be addressed. Add in exercise, you absolutely want to do that. But for anyone in menopause, I do always encourage that you work with a functional medicine provider, because I'm a big supporter of bioidentical hormones, and because there's nothing we can do to get our hormones back. And so I'm a big supporter in those who obviously are eligible to take them, to take bioidentical hormones in our sort of perimenopause and menopause phase. And that's very helpful. And then obviously the lifestyle, diet, exercise is essential, but you can absolutely make a difference. I know a lot of women get very concerned and they fear that, when we move into menopause, that's just the natural expected outcome, and it's not. There are ways that we can go around sort of, again, mitigating the development of excess body fat or fat around the middle. So again, make sure you work with a functional medicine provider, and they can help you quite significantly. So leaky gut again and fasting. I love I love fasting as a treatment for leaky gut. So that's something I do also recommend. I touched on that a little bit earlier. When anyone comes in with a gut issue, the first thing I'm doing is recommending fasting. So I recommend a 16-hour fast from dinner until your first meal the next day. So I recommend that at least 5 days a week, and then once a week, a 24-hour fast. And that's very helpful for bringing down inflammation in the gut. So that is something I will absolutely introduce with my patients when leaky gut is an issue. It's very, very helpful. I've asked our PCP about our son and exogenous ketones. Your eldest has ADD, ADHD, so you're wondering if it'll help with focus and memory. Okay, so first thing I have to say is that our product is approved for adults 18 plus. So that's the first thing I have to say. You do have to work with your healthcare provider to make sure that they say that it's safe for your children to take. If you do want to introduce it to your children, there is quite a bit of research looking at the role of beta hydroxybutyrate and ADD, ADHD. They compare the brain waves of somebody with ADD and ADHD to a child with epilepsy. They find that they're very similar, and that's why they suspect that there is benefit in both of those patient populations. I will often refer people to the Charlie Foundation to get a lot of great information on ketogenic diet, ketones in children. So that's a really great resource, but there is a lot of information in that space. I give my daughter ketones. She's 3, but again, that's something that I know is safe for her and works for her. She asks me for banana ketones every day. That's her favorite flavor. So again, you just have to work with your healthcare provider, make sure that they say it's safe, because our product is approved for adults 18 plus. But if your healthcare provider says that it's safe for them, then they can absolutely go ahead. And yes, there is research in the space of ADD, ADHD, and looking at the benefit that BHB might have in that area. Are there going to be any of the Epik talks available to listen to? Oh, that's a good question. That I'm not sure. So stay tuned on that one, and I'm sure you will get the answer to that shortly. So sometimes they are made available for you. But I'm not sure on that just yet. Will coffee break your fast? No. You can definitely have coffee in your fasting window in the morning. I usually do a coffee. I like my buttered coffee with MCT oil in it. So no, it won't break your fast. What does break your fast is a spike in insulin, and fats don't spike your insulin, but carbohydrates will. So that's why you can have MCT oil in that fasting window, not going to break your fast. Coffee is not going to break your fast, just depends on what you put in it. So if you have coffee in the morning, you can't put sugar in your coffee, because again, obviously the sugar will spike your insulin and that will break your fast. So it just depends on what you've actually decided to put in your coffee. So I'll come back to the autoimmune question. I didn't forget the MS and autoimmune. So there's a fair bit of research in the underlying causes of an autoimmune condition. Most people, when they get diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, they're told, we don't know why it happened. We don't know what triggered this. We're not sure, we're not sure why it developed. And we find that that's not actually true. One of the primary drivers of autoimmune is usually stress. And when I talk to my patients, they can tell you about a stressful event, sort of either a long-term event that occurred before the onset of symptoms of their autoimmune condition, divorce, death, something like that, that really strains or stresses the system. There is often a trigger to those autoimmune conditions that develop. So when we look at an autoimmune condition, will ketones cure your autoimmune condition? No, they're not going to cure any medical condition, but you can look at some of the underlying factors that are contributing to the autoimmune condition. So we know that we have underlying inflammation, we know we have mitochondrial dysfunction, and we know that we have low BDNF. So low BDNF is a brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It exists in our brain. It helps us create new neuronal pathways in the brain. We actually measure that gene in our clinic. It's very highly correlated to cognitive decline as well. And so we find that those with low BDNF, we see low BDNF in those with an autoimmune condition. We see the mitochondria not working. We see inflammation. And so beta-hydroxybutyrate has been shown to upregulate BDNF, and so has fasting. Those are two really, really great ways to upregulate BDNF. And saunas are actually another great way to upregulate BDNF. And interestingly, in Finland, so saunas are a really common practice there. And interestingly, they're actually very prone to genetic defects in the BDNF. So the saunas are very good at upregulating BDNF in general, but beta-hydroxybutyrate and fasting will do the same. And then we know that the BHB has an impact on our mitochondria, optimizing mitochondrial function. It optimizes the production of glutathione, which is one of our most potent and powerful antioxidants, and the mitochondria uses glutathione to create energy. So we're not going to cure the condition, we're not going to cure the autoimmune condition, but we can absolutely address underlying factors that are impacting that condition. So upregulate BDNF, optimize the function of our mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, and then see if we can impact those inflammatory pathways. So there are a lot of different things that we can look at. And then, of course, you have to look at what the trigger was. Often it's stress, so then lifestyle factors managing stress as well. So there are ways that we can, and what about lupus? Yes, lupus falls into all of this as well. So there are other ways that we can optimize some of those underlying contributing factors. But again, this is not a cure for your autoimmune condition, but there are definitely options for you. So that is all of our time today, everybody. That, again, That time flew by, it always does. So I hope I got to all of your questions. I did see some of your posts about Epik this weekend and some great questions about the presentations at Epik. So I hope you all had an amazing time. It's always my favorite way to connect with you as a community, is to come out, see you all in person, educate, share. So thank you guys all for having me there this weekend and for attending. And if you missed it, hopefully we'll get some replays for you so you can all learn some of that information as well. So enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy.